Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is SalamX 1976 here. Today I want to talk about MMA free agency, and I want to read an article from Bleacher Report. It was a conversation between Lorenzo Fertitta and Matt Mitrione, and this is when Mitrione was in negotiations to re-up his contract. And Mitrione was talking about the Reebok sponsorship deal and tried to punctuate his point by saying that the 500 plus or so fighters on the roster of the UFC are the UFC's product. And he goes on to say that Lorenzo Fertitta looked at him and said, no, the production and the show are what the company are selling. And Mitrione responded with saying, without all of the fighters, all you have is a cage and a camera. Which is true. Can you imagine watching your favorite TV show without the actors? Just a set? Camera, set? Wouldn't be any fun. But at the same time, to showcase their talent, the fighters need these big companies, these productions, to put them out there, Or all they'll be is just some actors in the park, doing like Shakespeare in the Park or something. So basically, they both need each other. Matt Mitrione couldn't come to an agreement with the UFC, so he left. And he went to Bellator, and Bellator offered him some good money, and he signed with them. They've also signed Josh Thompson. They signed Ben Henderson. They've signed some old UFC fighters like Tito Ortiz and Stephan Bonner and some guys like that. Now with Rory McDonald's going to become a free agent after his next fight, and so is Dan Henderson. You see more and more fighters are going to test the waters of free agency to see what they're worth. How do you know what you're worth if you only have one person offering you, or one company offering you money? If that one company says, hey, we'll give you $10,000, that's it, take it or go work for nobody. You're going to take it because there's no other work out there. But now with Bellator, Risen, ONE FC, World Series of Fighting, you have more opportunities or more outlets to get paid. And it all started with, I would say Phil Davis was the first big name kind of to go from UFC to Bellator. And not only did he, encourage other fighters to test the waters and see what they're worth. After that, Josh Thompson came. After that, Josh Thompson and Phil Davis spoke to Ben Henderson, and said, hey, this is what's up over here. We're getting paid better. We have our sponsors back. And then Ben Henderson signed. Now Ben Henderson is telling people the grass is greener on this side in an article on MMA fighting.com. He's making a statement saying to other fighters, you need to test the free agency. You need to check out Bellator. You need to check out other split places, to get what you're worth. Jake Shields, he wasn't happy with his contract. He didn't believe he was getting paid enough. So he wanted to renegotiate his contract before his next fight, which would have been a world title fight against John Fitch. He wanted to renegotiate because that was his last fight, and if he won, he would have been stuck in his contract with what's called a champion's clause. If he would have won the title in his last fight, he would have been the champ. Therefore, when you're a champ, you can't just leave the company. You have a champion's clause, which means I believe you have to stay with the company for 1 year or 3 fights, something to that extent, at your old terms. it wasn't fair, Jake. So they pulled him from the fight because he wouldn't sign the fight agreement. He said, no, I want to renegotiate my contract first. So who knows if we'll ever see Jake Shields fight in World Series again, because I think they've just shelved him, put him on the shelf, until he agrees at least to, his final fight. This leads me to think that more and more fighters are going to go the way of free agency, and they're going to fight their contracts out and test the waters and see. Sometimes it'll pay off, sometimes it might not pay off, but it's a good thing. These guys don't have pensions or retirement plans, so when they leave the fight game, all they have is what they've earned, those few years that they're at their prime to fight, and who knows what kind of injuries and long sustained trauma that they're going to have to deal with, down the road. So they're definitely going to need some, money that way. Most of these guys, that's all they know is fighting. There are the outliers that, can cross over to like movies and, commentating and stuff like that. But for the most of the fighters, they're not going to be able to do that. So they need to make as much as they can with where they're at right now. So free agency will definitely help that, and it might not be the best thing for fans, because if you have fighters, say, a great fighter in the UFC and a great fighter over in Bellator, and they're never going to be able to fight and match up because they're in two different organizations. But if they're getting paid better money in Bellator, then they should fight over there. Free agency has worked out for several fighters. Alistair Overeem fought out his contract, and he got a big payday, I believe, from the UFC. They re-upped him. Free agency is a good thing, and you definitely will see more and more fighters testing the waters and possibly jumping ship to Bellator. I think UFC would be foolish to lose Rory McDonald, such a young, such a hungry fighter that brings it every time, puts his health at risk. Maybe he goes out there and he bangs. Exciting fighter. But it'll be interesting to see if they will pony up for him or let him go. I think more and more it's just about who are the stars, who's going to sell the pay-per-views, who speaks the loudest, who's the best showman, like Conor McGregor. He brings eyeballs to the table, he brings eyeballs to pay-per-view, he does all that, so they're going to dish out money for him. Roy McDonald is kind of a quiet guy, he's not the trash talker, he's like a pure fighter. He just wants to get in the ring, get it done, and let his actions in the ring speak for him. So I suspect they might weigh the pros and cons, and they might see that the return on investment might not be there, and they might let him go. Same with Dan Henderson. He's getting older. The UFC will let him go. And I definitely think he has a few fights left in him, and I bet Bellator would definitely pick him up. They kind of have an old folks home over there for some fighters, but anyways, that's my take on it. Free agency is a good thing. These guys need to get paid, for what they do. They entertain me, they entertain millions of people, and making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a fights and not cutting it. These guys, they have training camps, they have managers, they have gyms they have to pay for, and if a guy's making 40 or 50 a fight, which to some fighters that's good money, half of it's gone right away, it seems. So, and some fighters only get to fight 2-3 times a year, maybe, So definitely these fighters need to maximize what money they can bring in for what they're putting out. Once again, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. It always helps when you do that. Tell me what you guys think about free agency. Who do you think will be the next big fighter to leave either Bellator or UFC and go to a different organization? And as always, thanks for watching.